All right. Looks like I should be live here. As always, I'm going to go check it out just to confirm that and make sure. Obviously, there's some pretty big news today. We've got Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Finally, Jesus. I think he should have done this. I don't think he ever should have tried to run again. I don't think he ever should have tried to run again. I know everybody is saying right now, looking at this, like they're saying, "Oh, what a heroic moment for him. He'll be remembered as a hero, for doing the right thing." Maybe if they win, maybe, maybe. But if they lose, I still don't think he'll be remembered fondly. I don't think so because it was dumb to try and run. It was dumb to try and run when you were this damn old and unpopular. It was ridiculous. You should have never done it. You should have let a primary go forward. Then you would have looked kind of heroic and stuff like that. But I think he was looking at the polls from before and he thought, oh, I've got a chance, but whatever. Whatever. Fuck him. I think he should have resigned after Afghanistan. So with that out of the way, I think he should have done it a long time ago. But we can move on. We can unburden ourselves from what has been and start talking about the future. Actually, before we do that, before we move on, I've got to air my grievances. I was taking a lot of shit from people who I was going around for a while now. I was saying this is very likely something that could happen. At first, I was kind of in a toss up, like, oh, I don't know. This seems like it would be weird if it happened. And then I became pretty convinced it was going to happen. I started saying that, and people started giving me shit about it, which was weird because I understand why they believed Biden was going to remain in, even up to the past like what was it, like 2 days ago? People were telling me this. They weren't just saying he was going to remain in. They were giving me all kinds of crap for saying he's probably going to get out, and saying like acting like that was a ridiculous thing to think. And it didn't have to have gone this way. I didn't say 100% it was going to happen. I think the last thing I said was like 70% chance I think he's leaving. And so I just got to say I told you so to all of those people. I did say it, and I've been saying really kind of I said this like 4 years ago. I said I thought he'd be a one-term president because I just couldn't imagine trying to run for president at 82. It's crazy. But I will throw them a little bit of a bone, I guess, because there are reasons to think that this may not have happened, or the reasons to have thought before that it would have been like an unlikely thing. I do get where they were coming from, and so I'll explain that. I think it was the fact that he had basically just been saying that he is staying in repeatedly. That's all he ever said right up until he dropped out. And the campaign, all the people working for him were acting like it was going to happen, or he was still going through with it right until he dropped out. And it's something that's never happened before in history, as far as I'm aware. So there is that. There's no historical precedent for it. But I will say over the past few days, he did start to show some signs that he was open to it. He was saying like, I'll take a look at the data if some data comes out. Whereas at first he was just like, I wouldn't resign. I would only resign if God descended from heaven and told me to, or not resign, but drop out of the race. And he did start to seem more open to it. And there was just a flurry of leaks and news saying he's open to it, and like everybody's telling him to do it. So reckon they forced him out. Yeah. Well, definitely, for sure. Yeah, I don't think he wanted this. I think once it became apparent that like he had lost everyone's support to the point where even if he wasn't going to have lost before, basically what they did was force his hand. He was totally fucked. It was already bad, and it's one thing if it's really bad for you, but your party rallies around you and sticks with you. I saw a poll where 2/3 of the Democratic Party, the voters, wanted him to step down. That's you're not beating that. And then the whole media cycle and all the leadership basically telling you to. If Kamala is the candidate and wins the election, it's your fault for voting for her as VP because far left pros. What? My fault. I don't think she's going to win. I'll get to that in a second. I don't want her to win either. I mean, I don't know. I'm torn on her because on the one hand, she's not Joe Biden, who I obviously despise, but she's wrapped up with all of his sins because she was his number 2. And I also just personally, like on a personal level, I dislike her. Like I dislike hearing her talk a lot. She's one of the least likable people I've ever seen in politics. And it's just like, that's one of the reasons I don't think she's going to win, by the way. It's Jover. So yeah, I'll just wrap that up with the I told you so stuff. I do get where they were coming from, but from my perspective, there was a lot of reasons to think this was a very likely thing to happen. And so you shouldn't talk shit to me about things like that because I might be right and then I get to gloat. So maybe be a little more humble. My fear is that enough people hate Trump enough to vote for a literal fuck up candidate like Harris. Well, yeah, that's a good fear. You should have that. If you're worried about, if you don't like Harris, you should be worried about that because she was the last few polls I saw. She was pulling a few points better than Biden. I'll have to look. It'll really be more important to see the polls coming up over the next few days. I almost did a stream showing the map, basically an interactive map. Maybe I can pull that up. You know, the one I'm talking about where you fill in the states. I'll just do that, actually. I'll do that once I get done with my rants, just to, like, really show you how fucked Biden was and why this had to happen. Maybe this is a good time to do that now, actually. And then we can talk about Kamala later. Let me see if I can find this map. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do it from memory, but I looked this up, like, yesterday. So this is based on Emerson polls. Emerson polls about the swing states. So let me see here. Interactive map, elections. Okay, let's see if I can share this tab here for you. This will really give you a good idea of why he was so completely fucked. And like, despite whatever you thought about, if you thought he had a chance of winning, that's even more delusional, really. I think, what did I say on my last, like, 2%? This'll give you a good reason why that's the case and why the party leadership saw what I was seeing. I'm not, obviously that influential. I'm not a media person, but I can read stuff, guys. I can read. And I actually, I have studied this stuff. Like, I'm not, I know what I'm talking about. Just trust me. Trust me on this. Let me see here. Present screen. Share screen. Here we go. 270 to win. Let me see. What? It won't let me click the button. There. And I get an ad for Tiger Woods' ex-wife or something. All right. Okay, so can you see this map? Is it popping up there? I think you got it. I can't make the map full screen. I'm going to have all these little ads playing on the side. So sorry about that. But you can see this. The ones, obviously, you know what the colors red and blue mean, and I think you get the idea with the shades. The brown ones are the swing states. So let me fill those in. It'll be really easy. This will be very easy for me to do because all of these we're going to Donald Trump. All of them. I think this one, that might have been Biden. I don't remember the last one I saw on that. But we'll do that. Whatever. We'll be generous. No. It couldn't be because, let me see here. Yeah. All of this. This was, wait. 314. What did I just switch on that? I switched something wrong there. Oh, Virginia. Yeah, you got Virginia too. And then this was reversed here. So it's difficult with these little fuckers in Maine. All right. So you see this. This is based on Emerson polls of the swing states. 326 to 212. And if you want to know which of these, okay, I could get more in depth into this to show you which ones were outside of like they were outside of the margin of error. So there's a margin of error on these polls was like 3 points up or down. So essentially, if he's winning by more than 3 points, he was going to win. I think the only one I think that was within that was this one here. But even if you give him that, it's still like a landslide electoral college victory. You could give him lots of these. You could give him Nevada. You could give him you could give him this one. Give him Virginia back. He's still winning. He would still have won. You give him that one, he loses. There was an interesting scenario, actually. Let's flip that back. Where you could have given him Arizona, and he would still win at this, even with all those back, and he was losing in all of those. Basically, all of them, I think, except 2, and I forget which 2. I know it was that one and maybe Nevada, were within the margin of error, but the margin of error could have been wrong in the other direction. So it could have meant that Trump was actually winning by even more. Anyway, there was an interesting scenario. So that's why he's so fucked. And so I'll have to see the polls on that, or why he would have been so fucked, as far as knowing how bad Kamala will do. So let's stop that. And there was an interesting scenario where they could have had an electoral college tie, which would have resulted probably in Trump winning, because it would go over to the House, and then the delegate. It would be close, though. It would essentially be the congressman from each state. Each state would get 1 vote, and then the congressman in those states would vote for the president. So that'd be weird. But anyway, let's get past that. He's the past. It's over. Theme of the night. We're being unburdened by what has been. So we're moving forward. Yeah, I already read that. Honorably discharged from the army for smuggling jelly donuts, Gomer Pyle. Well, that's a slanderous lie. I don't know what to say. I don't even think you could be dishonorably just discharged for stealing donuts. If Kamala picks Josh Shapiro as her VP, I'll be totally pissed. When he was AG in Pennsylvania, he was covered up the murder of Ellen Greenberg as a suicide. I have no idea what you're even talking about. You whoever you are, you say ridiculous stuff. Anyway, moving on. So what's going to happen now is they're going to move over to the I guess the Democratic convention. There was talk of a mini primary. I don't know how you could do that unless by that, I think what they meant by that must have been that we're just going to have some debates and essentially have candidates fight over the votes of the delegates, because there's no way you could have real people, like the common regular people, voting in the states for candidates. That's just not. You got 3 weeks. It's not fucking feasible. I don't know. Could they delay the Democratic convention? Is that allowed? I don't think it is. I don't think they'd want to. So what's probably going to happen is there will be, I assume, a fight. Now, a lot of people think this isn't going to happen. They think basically it's Kamala, and she's already won. That's what everyone in here is talking about. Everybody's talking about Kamala like it's over, and it probably is. It probably is going to be her. I kind of expect that at this point. That's not a done deal either, though. That's not a done deal either. We'll be seeing. She doesn't do that much better than Joe. All right, in the polls. Now, she doesn't have all of his flaws, but she's part of the administration. And she's, like I've said before, extremely unlikely. Not unlikely, unlikable. She's very likely to be the candidate at this point. But she's got a lot of baggage just from being part of the administration. What does the best in the polling is just generic. There's sometimes a polling option where it's just a random Democrat candidate. There's a no name, basically. It just says Democrat candidate. which is just like whoever that's a Democrat. That usually does the best in polls against Trump, outside of like, again, I think I saw crazy polls for Michelle Obama, but that's not realistic at all. So that's why I would assume that actually some new person with low name recognition would actually probably do really well, a lot better than Kamala. Now, there's all kinds of arguments against that. I understand them. I understand there's not enough time, all the crap about fundraising, the fact that typically low name recognition is usually like a bad thing for you. But in this case, I don't think it would be for the reasons I've already explained. They'd have less baggage, and people don't like Trump. He's got a record that can be attacked. He's already been president. Kamala has a record too. It's basically Joe Biden's record. She was part of the administration. She was put in charge of the border. Like, I mean, wow. I just forgot about that until just now. That was one of the things he did the worst on. Oh my God. I think she'd be kind of fucked too. I don't think she would be as fucked as Biden was in the past like few weeks here, but I don't think she'd be a front runner. I think she'd be running from behind as well. It just wouldn't be like abysmal, like, 2% odds of winning. She'll do slightly better because she's at least not like, she could do better in the debates, I think. Even though I don't see people liking her. Maybe there's people that do, but I don't understand it. I've seen people say, the African American vote, the women vote, and they like her, and I don't see it. But it doesn't have to be her. So I'll get to this. I think it will be, probably, but I'm not 100%. I think it's like, I don't know how far I want to go with this. Let's say it's like a 75% chance, maybe 80%. We'll say 80%. This is like a 1 in 5 shot. It could be somebody else, I think, at this point. No, you know what? I'm going to go with 75%. Let's do that. Let's be bold here. Starting out, at least. We'll see. It'll depend on what they decide to do. The reason I think that is because, Biden came out and endorsed her right away. So that's a big boost right there, even though I just got done saying how he was unpopular and shit, but it creates like continuity. And so all the Biden people who were like ride or die with Biden are going to jump on her train. There was people that were arguing for her already that liked her. I don't know who these people are, but they did. And then the Clintons. So the Clintons, both of them, Bill and Hillary, came out and endorsed her. So they're big, they're popular people in the Democratic Party. And then there's all the stuff about the money. Apparently it's easier because she can use that money because she's a part of the ticket. Evidently. I don't know why that's such a problem. I never understood why you couldn't. And maybe there is some rule or regulation. There's all sorts of regulations about like campaign funds and what you can do with them and what you can't do with them. I didn't understand, though, why you couldn't just give all of the funds to like a third party of some kind, or maybe multiple third parties, and then just have them, they spend it because they can, send it out and do whatever they want, right? For the most part, other than the regulations and stuff, give it to those people and then have them give it to the new campaign. I heard Andrew Yang describing something like that. And I don't know. I've never heard a reason why you couldn't do that. So maybe there is something I'm missing. But yeah, so those are all the reasons that run in her favor. There's the money thing, the continuity, the endorsements. It just sort of seems like the right thing to do. It sort of seems like what should happen, right? If a candidate steps down at this point and the voting's already done, it just feels natural. So those are the reasons it probably will be her. Now, for the reasons why I'm not 100% convinced of that. I'm not 100% convinced because all the shit I already said about her being unpopular, I still think she's going to lose. Other people see that same stuff. I know they do. And the delegates don't have to vote for her. I've had someone today tried to tell me that they have to vote for her, they have to do like how was it put to me? I think it said that they have to follow Biden's instructions on the first round of voting. That's not true. As far as I've never seen that anywhere or ever heard that anywhere. I don't know where that would have even come from, other than what it does say is that they have to, in the first round, they have to represent the I think it says the will of the voters who assigned them to go vote. They have to reflect their intentions to the best of their ability. So that's what it says in the Democratic rules. They have to reflect the intentions of the voters that sent them there to the best of their abilities in the first round. That's most widely been interpreted to mean that they basically have to vote for them in the first round. And after that, they're free to do whatever they want. Or if the candidate steps aside, they're free to do whatever they want. So at this point, technically, the delegates are free to do just whatever they want. They can vote for whoever they want. They don't have to listen to Biden. They're supposed to reflect the intention of the people that sent them there on the first round. And it seems like what they'll probably do is, because Biden endorsed her and she was a part of the ticket, they'll probably almost all go to her. I think that's what is likely to happen. But there's a lot of people that think, well, no, they can just do whatever they want. So if another Democrat decides to throw his hat into the ring and starts to negotiate with these people, all the power is in the hands of these delegates. At this point, they could pick whoever they want. They could have a fight for it. They could have a little fight for it. And I think someone's going to at least try to do that. I don't know if they'll try and do it publicly. I feel like you'd have to. Come out, publicly do it, start raising funding, and then making the argument and going on TV and saying Kamala can't do it. Kamala's going to lose. I can do it. She's too tainted by Joe Biden's baggage. We have to get rid of her, and it has to be me. I think someone's going to at least attempt to do that. Just because, if for no other reason, just to like make a name for themselves and get attention, I would advise somebody to do that to increase their name recognition. It might make them look like shit, though. So there is that. You know, it could always backfire. And there's always the small chance you could win, and then you're the nominee. And people take long shots like that all the time in politics. Sometimes they pay off. So there is that. I doubt it, though. I feel like most of the delegates are just going to do what Biden says. I don't know for sure. Like I said, it's never happened. And they don't have to, technically. I mean, hell, there's an interpretation of that the delegates actually technically don't even have to, that they could always do whatever they wanted, because it says reflect the intentions of the voters that sent them there. That's pretty vague. I mean, usually that's interpreted to mean you have to vote for the person they voted for, but there's different ways you could see that. There's probably another way you could see it where you could sort of bend it and twist it to be like, and you've got to vote for whoever their candidate endorsed or whoever's on the ticket. I don't know. Basically, they're free, though. So I think there will be a fight. I don't know who will do it. I don't know who's going to do it. I mean, there was challengers to Biden. Not a really significant one, but you had a Congress guy who was out there trying to run in this primary against him. I kind of made fun of him today on Twitter. Was his name Dean Phillips? Probably never heard of him. He didn't do very well. And then there's all the super delegates too. So you don't have to. That's the other thing to remember. You don't have to peel off all of the delegates that were going for Biden. I don't even think it's the majority, actually, because I forget there's a ton of super delegates in the Democratic Party who vote for essentially, I think, whoever they want. I think that they're just free. Basically, they're just party leaders. That's my understanding. I don't know a lot about them because usually they don't matter that much, except as like tiebreakers in competitive primaries. But they could make a difference if the party leadership is just like, yeah, we don't like her. I think if the party leadership were to say that. But the issue is Biden and the Clintons already endorsed her. So those are some pretty significant people in the leadership, right? What are the other people going to do? Pelosi hasn't endorsed her as far as I know. I assume that'll come. If that starts happening and all of the leaderships is getting behind her, I think it's over at that point. It's going to be her. I don't think Obama endorsed her, and I don't think Pelosi has yet. Maybe they've done it since I started talking right now. I assume tomorrow you'll start to see some of that, but I don't know. It depends. I'm sure they've been debating this and hashing this out. That was the other thing I guess I forgot to talk about is why would Biden have done all of this? Why would he have kept saying I'm going to stay in over and over? It made it look like he was still running right up until like the last second. There was people literally working for him in his campaign right up until this happened. There was like no notification from him. And I think there's a few ways to look at that. One is just he hadn't made up his mind until literally today. I don't know if I buy that. I think maybe he was open to it, and maybe he needed to see a few things before he finally pushed the button. And so if you are considering this, you're not going to go public with it. Not really. Even if you already made up your mind, you might not do it right away, just because you always want to be able to reverse that decision. Once you've said it, like he's done now, not really reversible. I know the only time I can think of that ever happening, I believe that happened in House of Cards. Actually, I think they did that in one season where he basically said, "I won't be seeking another term because everyone's forcing me out," and then he I don't remember, did some horrible corrupt conspiracy thing and essentially forced them all to vote for him. But whatever, that's a TV show. I think it was that he was worried that if it didn't pan out for whatever reason, they were looking into different stuff. Can we do this? Can we do that? How's it going to go? And you don't want to push the button until you're like 110%, because otherwise you just shot yourself in the foot even more than you already were. But yeah, I think that was probably it. And it keeps the Republican fire off of whoever else is coming next. And, so that works, especially when the RNC is going on and they're all, you've got Hulk Hogan up there, like screaming at the gods and ripping off his clothes. And you don't want them all to have a giant party talking shit about Kamala while you got to wait until that's over. That's why I think I said it would be like the day after it ended. It wasn't quite. It was 2 days after that. 3 days after. So I was off by a couple days there, but close enough. So yeah, I think I covered everything. I think there'll be a little skirmish, maybe. I don't know who it would be. I don't think, like, some of the names getting thrown around, and people have said this about these other people. Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, is it Gretchen Whitmer? I don't know. There's a few other names that get thrown around, and they'll say they weren't doing very well in the polls either. Yeah, but nobody knows who the fuck any of those people are, other than, I guess, Gavin Newsom. I mean, maybe some of the people listening to me do, but most of us here are probably much more like politically aware than most people would be, I would assume. So you've probably heard those names before. Most people don't know who the fuck any of those people are, except maybe Gavin Newsom. He's a little more famous, I think, than the rest of them. I think that'll help him, actually, for the reasons I've already talked about. The fact that basically unknown Democrat, random Democrat candidate, A, B, or C, whatever you call it, in the polls does the best. They don't have as much of a record to attack. They're not tainted by Joe Biden. It's just like, kind of more of a fresh start for them, unless whatever the crazy person in my chat was talking about Josh Shapiro covering up a murder. I don't know what that was about. But anyway, I think one of those people would do better, it would be really hard. They would have an extreme uphill battle to take out Kamala, and they might come away looking like shit if it doesn't work. They would look good, and this is the reason I would tell some of them to do it, is because they would not look like shit if their whole message was, she's gonna fucking lose. That's why it has to be me. Only I can beat him. Or they might even, if they're the only one doing it, they can just say, it has to be somebody else. And then she loses, and then they can do the whole I told you so thing. And they just pumped up all of their name recognition. And then there's speaking of the I told you so stuff, there's going to be the Biden people who are like, y'all shouldn't have forced him out, and we should have ran Biden, because if she lost, Kamala loses, they're all going to be like, well, we shouldn't have replaced him. Biden would have won. We told all of you. And they'll be able to. So you really shouldn't be too upset. If you're a big Biden lover out there, you shouldn't be too upset, because no matter what happens, you'll be able to make that argument for the rest of your life. I mean, if Kamala wins, it probably won't matter too much, because the Kamala people will be like, no, he just would have lost. But if she loses, they'll be able to say that forever. They'll be able to just say, you should have listened to us. And they have no way of being able to prove it. But I don't know. We'll see. Biden would have won would be the new Bernie would have. Oh yeah, there was that. But the Biden would have won people were already around with the. They had a point though, because Biden, if everyone forgets this, he wanted to be the guy in 2016, and they basically kind of pushed him aside then and said, no, it's going to be Hillary, it's her turn, and she lost. And then because Biden won, all the people that were at least people close to him, and the people that had supported him and things, they all came out and were like, oh, we told you so. You should have gone with him in 2016, because look, he just beat Trump. Why didn't y'all listen to us before? So yeah, they'll have that forever. I don't know. And it also prevents the Trump people. The other nice thing about this is it prevents the Trump people from ever being proven right. They'll never get a chance to beat Biden. That's really sad for them. They'll have to keep clinging on to their conspiracy theories from 2020 forever, saying he actually really won that one, and never, if oh my God, if Trump had beat Biden, oh my God, we would never hear the end of it. They would never would have heard the end of it. They would say, oh yeah, they tried to rig it. They rigged it last time. Obviously, that's why he won this time. And he did so well this time that they couldn't rig it against him. That stuff's crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. What would I get? Let me think about what the odds. Did I already say the odds I would give Kamala against Trump? I don't think it's a lot. I mean, it's better than Biden once he got in those last few. I think I'll go 70-30. Let's do that. Trump gets a 70% chance, and Kamala has a 30% chance. Still not very good. I still think she's going to lose, but still, that's not abysmally low, because you didn't have to do. The other thing was what I was showing you on that map is even a little bit better puts you back into effectively a tie game, because what Biden had done, people were pointing this out, the people that liked him, and were like, why would you make him believe he didn't slip that much in the polls? He didn't slip that much. He was like, yeah, but he was already losing. And so the thing was, when you slip a little bit on these swing states and you start falling out of the margin of error on the polls, and not just in one of them, but in lots of them, it's statistically almost impossible to win. And I know people say polls are bullshit. Polls are not bullshit. Anyone that says that just they don't know how they fucking work. They don't know how polls are designed. They don't understand shit about polls. Polls are fucking science, okay? If you don't believe in polls, you don't believe in science. Let me tell you that right now. And I know people will put out what the fuck are you talking about? The polls didn't predict the right thing in what was the last election? In the midterms. The polls said there was going to be a giant red wave. No. The polls didn't say that. Media commentators said that based on their interpretation of the polls, which was fucking wrong. Those were some of the most accurate polls we've had in modern history. Okay? They didn't do a great job at predicting the winner of each race. In fact, they did pretty awful at it. That doesn't mean they weren't accurate polls. They were insanely accurate. The problem in the 2022 midterms is that there was a ton of extremely close races. When a race is extremely close, the poll isn't going to do a very good job of telling you who's going to win. It will tell you that it's going to be a really close race, and that's what the polls said. Because here's the difference between an inaccurate poll and one predicting the winner or the loser. I think I've explained this before. The difference is you could have a poll that predicted the correct winner that was less accurate than a poll that didn't. And if that sounds insane to you, you think I'm like smoking crack or something. The reason for this is because you could have a poll that says it has, let's say, the Democrat winning by 2 points, right? And let's say the Democrat loses, or let's say the Democrat wins by, so the Democrat wins. It says the Democrat's going to win, but the Democrat wins by like 10 points, okay? That would be a less accurate poll than a poll that said the Republican was going to win by 1 point. That actually would have been a more accurate poll. Or, sorry, the Republican was going to lose by, I don't know, whatever. You get what I'm saying. It's the margins of difference. It's the actual difference in what the poll is saying the results are going to be versus what the results are. And so if it's a Democrat winning by way fucking more than they were supposed to, that's not a very good poll. If it's a Democrat only losing by like a little bit more than they were supposed to have, won by. So if it says they're going to win by like 1 point and they lose by 1 point, that's not a bad poll. That's a really good poll. That's a fantastic poll. It just got the winner wrong. So people don't understand that. They also bring up the 2016 election. They'll bring that shit up. And the thing about that is they weren't paying attention. The polls changed right before. So that's another thing. Just because polls are wrong, like you can't look at polls from like 6 months ago and then be like, oh, the polls 6 months ago said so-and-so was going to win and they lost in November. So that poll was inaccurate. That's not true. People change their minds, and it's not measuring like every single there's still people that will change their minds, and it's accounting for people that haven't made up their minds yet and what they're going to do. So you do get big changes the closer you get to to an election happening. Big changes can happen. And then you also can change the weights. So these polls are weighted. You have to understand this. They're not just like random, like we're just asking people questions and recording them and taking the percentages down. They go through and they account for things like the non-response bias of Trump voters. So what they'll do is once they realize that's a thing and they've actually measured it and its effect, the effect size, they can then take the responses they do get from Trump voters and weight them. So they're not statistically counted the same as a Democrat respondent. So someone, saying, oh, well, I support Trump in a poll, at least because after they accounted for the non-response bias of Trump supporters, what they would do then is have that person count more like, instead of as one person, as like 1.3 or 1.4 people, or whatever the size that they determine the non-response bias in the poll is supposed to be. And there's not just one. There's multiple weights like this. They'll do weights based on people's age and other demographic information, all sorts of shit. There's a fuck ton of shit that goes into these polls. This is why it's a full-time job for people. This is why people get paid so much money to do it. It's not like a simple fucking thing. So anyway, just a little information on that. Political polarization means even a crappy candidate can still win. Yeah. It's, well, I don't know how much it is that political polarization means that. I think it's just that if one side's got a crappy candidate, the other side can have a crappy candidate win too. That's what we're seeing. I don't think either of these were ever the best choices. I've said that a million times. I think if the Republicans had picked anybody but Trump, it would have been a blowout. I don't think Biden would have ran. I think it would have been obvious it was going to be a blowout at that point. And then I think Biden would have stepped down. I think they would have had a real primary. I do think that would have happened. But they decided to go with Trump. And Trump has a shitload of baggage. And Republicans don't get that. I don't think they get. It's hard for some people to like step outside of their brain and like model the mind of another person that thinks differently than they do. So where they can't understand how people see Donald Trump and fucking hate him, or even just like don't like him, even unless they think everybody that dislikes him is like a Democrat. That's not true. There's like regular people. Basically, most people don't like Trump. That's the thing they have to understand. Everyone outside of like the diehard red hat people, they don't like him. It's just a matter of how much they don't like him. There's a bunch of Republicans who are not red hat people that they don't like him either, but they don't like him. They don't dislike him enough to like vote for a Democrat. So they might not vote. Sometimes they dislike the Democrats so much that they'll still vote for him anyway, but that's not like enthusiastic support. Independents don't like a lot of stuff about him. They tend to have less strong opinions, but they don't like the January 6th stuff. They don't like that he got convicted of a crime. They don't like the way he talks. They didn't like his speech the other night. I guarantee. I haven't seen all the polling on that. I'm just assuming it, though. Like the first part of his speech, I'm sure everybody loved. He's all like, we're going to be united, and I love everybody now, and Jesus Christ is my savior. I don't know. I didn't listen to that carefully to it. I don't know. But then the rest of it, God, it was so fucking long. The rest of it was like just like a Trump rally, which normal people don't like the Trump rally stuff. Anyway, I don't know. I just went off on another little tangent there. I think I've hit every point I wanted to make. We'll have to see. Have to see what happens. I do hope it is somebody besides Kamala, though. I don't like her. I don't think I'd vote for her. I don't blame her for everything, you know? Like, you can't. Like, she was the vice president. But on a personal level, I dislike her. I find her really fucking annoying. And she was technically in charge of the border. I don't know how she got that job. I felt like that would have been more appropriate, like for the Secretary of Homeland Security to be doing that. He's the head of ICE and stuff. So I don't know why she would have been put on that job, but if she actually did have any input there, she totally fucked it up. I don't like that she was a part of the administration, and I think she's going to lose. So I don't like her. I don't want anything to do like with the Biden administration after Afghanistan. And I know she probably didn't have any input at all when it came to that kind of a thing. But I don't know what she would do. I don't know. I also think, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see if it is her, how well she does. Because I've always had the theory that it'll be a while before like a woman can actually win. I think that and people don't think about this because like most of you guys are probably younger, and most young people think that's not like a real thing, that there are people that are just like, I'm just not going to vote for a woman. There's a lot of people like that. Most of them probably wouldn't be Democrat voters anyway, but there's like, it's not all just like far right wing Republican types. Like there's just old people that are just like that. Okay. That are not like super political, or they haven't thought about it. They just don't want, it's a bad idea in their mind. That's like what I was talking about earlier. It's hard for people to think about how extremely different people actually think in the world. And you have to realize it's not just like just because you're thinking a thing doesn't mean that that's like a majority opinion or whatever. That's like everybody thinks the same way I fucking do. And how could you think that way? Because it's unreasonable. I don't know. I feel like that's still a thing. It'll be interesting to measure that, though, and to see. I don't think that's an insurmountable thing. I think it has some effect, her being a woman. I don't think it's an insurmountable thing. But for someone like Kamala Harris, who already has a shitload of other negative qualities, I think it's not going to help. I'd put it that way. Like, obviously, I don't think it would be like impossible for a woman to win. Like, I wanted Nikki Haley at one point, at least. I was like, well, you know what? And I think she'd do good. I think she'd do a good job. I think she would have won. I think if you ran Nikki Haley against Joe Biden, she would win. Now, as far as her winning the Republican primary, I never really thought that was going to happen. I don't think I don't think I ever even gave her a shot at that. I don't remember. Did I ever put like a percentage on that? I don't think I would have. Just because like her polling was awful, but then on top of it, I just couldn't see it happening. I don't know. Kevin thinks Bernie should run. Well, Kevin's like a deranged lunatic and probably an idiot. I don't. It's hard to tell because I'm still. I think I came out and said he was grifting before, just because he basically just lied like blatantly about stuff, and I feel like he's just like a clown. So if you're just like on the internet trying to get attention, being like a weird clown, like maybe he is just a crazy person. I have no fucking clue. But I would not take anything. I have never taken anything he said seriously. Honestly, I was talking about how the shit he said was wild and nuts for years. Anyway, that's about enough of this. One more time. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. Actually, I'm not going to review anything. Fuck that. I've already spent too much time here. It's like almost an hour. Jesus. Didn't expect this to take that long. I'll probably stream about, I don't know. I'll stream if anything else interesting happens, as always, which it could get interesting. If someone challenges her, that'll make it interesting. I hope it gets interesting. I don't want her to be the nominee. I don't want that to happen. I am glad Biden dropped out because I hate that guy. I hate him because of what he did in Afghanistan. I don't like him. And the border and everything else too. The border in Afghanistan are probably the worst things, though, in my opinion. I always thought the shit about the economy was a little overblown. But you know, it doesn't help. But the stuff about the border in Afghanistan and that kind of shit, that's directly on him. I'll never forgive him for that. Anyway, we'll see. Someone else jumps in. I might do a stream. I probably won't do a stream for the DNC. I don't even do a stream for the RNC, and that was way more entertaining. They had freaking. I almost did a stream just to react to Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan? Is it Hogan or Hogan? I'm not a big pro wrestling guy. That was hilarious. That was for so many levels. On so many levels, that was a funny thing for me to witness. God. He was like, a guy was acting, he was doing the whole pro wrestler thing, which is like kind of a joke. It's like a theatrical thing, and ripping off his shirt. But while he's talking, the subject matter he was actually talking about was quite serious when you think about it. He was talking about it like a president getting shot, but he's doing this whole, I'm so mad. I'm going to tear off my shirt, brother. They took a shot at my hero. It's just like, seriously? You're going to talk about that in character? Okay. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Other people probably hated that. I think I know some Republicans that would have hated that, actually. Conservatives that hate that kind of, it's viewed as trashy, but I thought it was funny. Anyway, enough of this. I'll catch you guys later. Have a great night.